All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Dr. D's discussions. We're going to be doing an interview today for bioislifemedia.com. I have with me Gabi Shull. Nate, actually one of the founders' cousins, I believe, on the mom
Yeah.
side. Is that correct? Cool. All right. So let's get into the heart of the matter. I know that we're going to be putting this on our innovator interviews and our grad life. So tell us about what your field of study is for your PhD and where it's at, and in particular, what subfield of that you're studying.
Yeah, so thank you for that introduction. So I am a first year biomedical engineering PhD student at the University of Minnesota. And what I'm studying within that field is called neural engineering. So neural engineering, as the name might imply, is a subset of biomedical engineering that deals particularly with trying to interact with, so normally in biomedical engineering, the whole system that you're designing for is the body. So my subset is the brain. So it entails a lot of things. A particular example would be brain-computer interfacing. So you're primarily interested in trying to get a signal. So that's like the one part, getting the hardware to get the signal out. Then you also are interested in decoding that signal. And then lastly, you might be interested in trying to modulate that signal. So like if you put those all together, you get kind of a closed loop system. But my particular field is more focused on the hardware, which is like all the way the first one, like getting the signals that we're interested in.
Oh, wow, that's very interesting. Cool. That's beyond my expertise. I'm only a
Yeah.
simple biologist, so
Yeah. Well,
they work in hand, and I know that
yeah,
you're
exactly.
with the neuroscience PhDs that are in my cohort. But so why'd you decide the University of Minnesota? Do they have a great biomedical engineering program? Is it somebody that you knew?
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, I was really involved as an undergraduate in the Biomedical Engineering Society at my undergraduate university, which is State University of New York, Binghamton. So I'm from New York. And at my undergrad, I was the vice president, but I was also doing research in a different field. And so I would go to these conferences. So I went to this one conference my senior year of undergrad in Tampa, I believe, it's funny because I also met up with Nate in Tampa. And we conference, I was just kind of like walking around when I wasn't presenting. They have a lot of booths, so there's a lot of universities trying to get you to go to their university. So I met this professor, Matt Johnson, and we had like a great conversation for like an hour. And so he was at the University of Minnesota booth. And so I also found out that he pointed to his right, and they have a fellowship for neuroengineering. So I was like, like I'm interested in that. So I applied to the program, and I actually got that fellowship. So that was like a big motivation to go here. And there's also, there's a lot of interdisciplinary work here, and it's a large university, so there's a lot of people doing a lot of synergistic things, all different departments.
Oh, excellent. Wow. So that's actually pretty cool. I know my other co-founder, Lee, wrote a nice little grad life article in terms of, networking and actually going to conferences and trying to meet more people in the field. And that's exactly what you did. So spot on. That's brilliant.
Yeah, talk to people. It's fun.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you get to learn, you get to learn about what they're studying. You get to ask them questions. You get to talk to the experts in the field. And basically, I really think that, that's what you got to do. So why? So what was your undergrad focus? I know that you said you were doing research. What were you doing then that got you interested in neural engineering, neurobiomedical
Yeah.
engineering?
Well, it's pretty funny because I was doing nothing related to neural engineering in my undergrad. So when I was a freshman, the way I just knew exciting, like I thought research was exciting. I had no idea what it meant. So I got in contact with a professor, and she was running an organs on a chip lab. And so my job I worked in that lab for 3 years. So what I did in that lab was I created a model of the small intestine using a few cell lines, and tried to look at how nanoparticle toxicity changes small intestine function. So there's this particle called titanium dioxide that I've given this rant a lot of times. The average American consumes like 100 billion particles a day because it's used as an anti-caking agent in a lot of ingredients that require, when you need to mix something, you just throw in a bunch of titanium dioxide. And so try to figure out what it does, because in its bulk form, when it's not a very tiny particle, it doesn't cause any problems. But what happens when you have a tiny particle, as you probably know, is you get more reactivity. So we proved that it changes a lot of things. But I actually got interested in biomedical engineering and it in high school because I took a bio class and I thought it was really cool. And then I also took a physics class and I thought it was really cool, and I liked math. So I kind of just put that together and was like, I guess biomedical engineering seems legit.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I'm less of a math guy. I'm more of the bio guy.
Yeah.
So I completely understand that. But so are you doing rotations right now, or are you just in a lab, or how does that work? I know that you said you got a fellowship, but I know in our program here that I have to do a couple rotations and then I get to pick a lab that I want to do my thesis in. How does it work there?
Yeah, so actually it was the first semester, it was just like that. So I did 3 rotations, and then what happens after those 3 rotations in your first semester is you pick a lab, and usually the professor also wants you. So it's not too much of an awkward process because, you've been in their lab doing stuff for about like 5 weeks or something like that. So I picked a professor. So my lab is in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. So I am I'm like the bio person in the lab. So I know a lot about that. So my lab does is it's focused on basically creating automated system and automated tools for neuroscience. So that's kind of our main focus. So for example, my professor, Suhasa Kodandaramahia is his name. He automated the patch clamping process, which is a process where you bring electrode to a cell. It's like a pretty hard procedure to learn how to do. So the things that we kind of do are along those lines. That I do is like making robots and coding stuff. Once I build it, I will test it, and yeah.
You build it, they will come, I guess, right? That's pretty cool. That's amazing. That's beyond what I actually know my bio type of knowledge, but that sounds amazing. So are you in your lab? So there's individual projects in like the labs that I'm rotating in. Do you get a specific subset, or do you work all on this one main project?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I was kind of like just helping out existing grad students in the lab just to kind of, learn the protocols, because you probably need to learn them anyway. So our lab uses mice models for the brain. So we do in vivo studies, which means in life. And so a lot of the things I did was like getting trained to work with mice. Like I had never done that. It's a pretty crazy process. But so yeah, I was helping. So one of my peers, she is working on this project called the brain window, where you basically replace part of the skull with a transparent window so that you can image the whole cortex with neuron level resolution while it's alive and awake and moving. So we had to create this like little microscope to mount on the head. And so a lot of it was figuring out how to put those things together. But I played a very minor role in that. And then my professor presented on this collaboration he has with a professor in Germany at Max Planck University in Dresden. And so he basically was really pushing the project like, hey, if anyone's interested, we have this collaboration and I really want to take it further, because he went there to do something small for her, but he wanted someone to take it over. So I am currently working on that project, and it's more of a shorter term. So it would only be till like the end of April. And so that project is creating a computer vision, so just like a camera guided robot that will take a micro-injector to a particular cell and then inject whatever contents you need. Because so what she would use it for, she's a developmental neuroscientist. So she does these injections, like thousands of them, and it takes a lot of time. So what I'm doing is kind of just, you could see like our lab is really focused on creating tools to help science. And however, the field of neural engineering, there's a lot of another thing people do is like deep brain stimulation. So for like Parkinson's and stuff like that, but that's just my subset.
No, that's amazing. That sounds really intense. That's actually great.
It's, you You know how like anything that you enjoy is probably less intense than it sounds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Like, I'm a big. I like actually cell signaling. So I actually like
Cool.
integrin-based cell signaling and the dysregulation of integrins and growth factors for cancer. So when I say that, other people go, "Ah, what is that?" So
Yeah.
completely good, I understand. But they always say that you're only good as the tools that you have. So you can only observe things that you built the tools that you can use to observe whatever that case is, whether it's neurons or whether it's subcellular localization of proteins, endosomal trafficking, different things like that. So I applaud the engineers that are actually giving us more tools to do more science, to do crazy different things. But so let's go on a little lighter note to wrap things up. We'll keep it a little short for you. When you get out of, have you given any thought to as when you get out of school, do you want to go into industry? Do you want to stay in academia? Do you want to do a postdoc in academia? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I was totally sure I was on the academic route. Or actually, I've had a lot of phases. So normally in academia, what happens, just for everyone, is that you have a very narrow like path if you are going to become a professor. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to do well in grad school, you have to do a bunch of postdocs, and then you have to go be a professor. And so you have to plan really hard. And so I thought that was kind of what I was interested in. And then when I was really young, and then I had a phase after that where I thought, oh, I want to like go into industry, whatever that bizarre, like abstract word means. But I think the things that I'm interested in aren't directly profitable perhaps in a industrial setting, at least so I've seen a lot of industrial jobs. A lot of the biomedical engineering ones are focused on kind of doing things that are very translatable for human, creating things that will be in people. And my work is more creating kind of tools for science. So I was thinking either going the academic route or going perhaps like some experimental, like, startup weird thing. Like I saw our professor forwarded us this, I guess they were looking for people. It was just kind of like a startup in San Francisco, and they were just wanting to build things. And I think anywhere I could go where I can learn and build things and have autonomy. So being able to choose what I want to work on is pretty important for me. So anywhere where that goes. So maybe academia, but then also maybe I'll take a little break between my postdoc. We'll see.
Yeah, that's perfectly cool. I'm still teetering between whether I want to go into government industry or
Oh wow.
academia. I would love to teach, but at the same time, public policy is definitely like right up my alleyway. So I'm a first year PhD student. I know you're a first year PhD student. You have time, so just keep networking, and opportunities will fall into your lap.
Yeah.
So I like to ask this, and especially since you're a woman in science.
Mhm.
So have you come across any obstacles in getting into your field? And do you have any advice for younger women that want to get a career in science? They want to achieve something in the biomedical engineering degree, or even like the life sciences or any type of science degree.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think a lot of it never felt super obvious to me, but it always, for me, it was more of like a subtle feeling that perhaps I didn't, it felt like everyone kind of knew something I didn't. And maybe that stems from being, I feel like, a woman in science, because one to look at. So for example, the biggest frustration for me was that I love reading. So like my high school is really focused on liberal arts. So like I really love reading people's like philosophy books. And it turns out a lot of scientists from back in the day have really cool journals. So for example, I read Tesla's biography. I read this guy, Ramon y Cajal. He was like a first neuroscientist. He was really important in Madrid. And the biggest frustration with those things is that they're exclusively geared towards men. Like all the pronouns are just like he. So I think I never experienced people being like, oh, you are a woman, like you can't do this. It was more of a very internalized, like subtle feeling. And I think my advice to like get past that would just be basically just focus on what you want, not what you think. So, like a lot of the times you can get caught up in kind of trying to demonstrate that you're the best because it seems like maybe you won't be. But I think just completely ignoring all those things is very helpful, and also seeking other people that would be really supportive. So sometimes it is hard, but if you have, like a lot of peers or some friends, I think just talking to people and having a good mentor. So when I was an undergrad, I had an amazing principal investigator, and she taught me like everything I know. And I think just really seeing someone that is super successful that you can relate to on that level is very important. So I guess trying to get a mentor is my advice, however that might work. And just really putting yourself out there, because so yesterday, actually, it's a funny story. My professor, he said that he was inviting another student to our lab meeting. I'm like, oh, who is she? He's like, she's a freshman and she was interested in research. And he mentioned that he has a soft spot for freshmen interested in research. So, because he said, if someone's excited, you just want to like help them stay excited. So I think if you can convey that excitement to someone, like the world will conspire in your favor, essentially.
Yeah, that's great. Like, honestly, that's the best advice that I could have ever even come up with. I think a great mentor is key to your success later on in your career, and even like getting you through school. Like, you need that support system, and if you don't have that, you're going to be SOL basically. And I've never really witnessed any sexism in the lab, but I'm a guy, I'm a blonde hair, blue-eyed, heterosexual guy. So
yeah, exactly. So it is a much more subtle thing. And I just like want to underscore, it's like, if you do feel that way, like you're definitely not alone. Just because you don't see other people, that's the problem. It's like very subtle, but knowing that it exists is just like comforting to being like, okay, like it's not me,
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice. I really appreciate that. I know that's amazing. Thank you. But let's wrap up on a very, very less serious note.
Yeah.
So what do you do in your free time? I know you said you like to read. What hobbies do you have? Do you like politics? Do you like other reading? Like, what is it that you like to do in your free time? Although I know it's few and far between with PhD.
Yeah. So my professor actually got a piano in the lab. There's like this huge warehouse where everyone dumps all the stuff they don't want from the university, and it's free for anyone. So he got a piano. So last semester I learned how to play the piano because we had one in the lab, and then I got a keyboard. So now I like playing that. But I also really like enjoying exploring abandoned buildings. And I have a film camera, so I really like. I have a headlamp over here. So, I don't do it every because I'm in Minnesota, it's really cold now, but I find it really fun to just like explore abandoned buildings, and and take my film camera with me and develop it myself.
That's amazing. That's cool. I know, when I was up in undergrad at Temple, there were plenty of abandoned buildings that I used to, go inside, and there was a hotel in the rain that, just snuck in there every now and again, but you had to be careful because, there's more homeless people in Philly.
Squatters.
But so thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be by us. I know share the website with all your friends. www.bioislifemedia.com. If you ever want to contribute for us in any type of way, if you want to write an article, we'd love to have you. You're very well spoken and very well versed. So if you're ever interested, you see a topic, a new breakthrough in technology, anything with neuroscience, anything at all. Let us know. We'd love to have a new contributor such as yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much also for the opportunity, and I'll definitely stay in touch.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gabi. Have a great day, and good luck with your research.